Good evening, everyone. This is Patricia Harold, President of the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association. We are Nebraskans' voice on Second Amendment issues, followed by almost 30,000 Nebraskans who strongly believe in the rights and freedoms protected by the Second Amendment. We've invited candidates running for Congress, governor, the legislature, city councils, and county sheriff to participate in our online town hall series, Meet the Candidates. Our format for this event is online, recorded interview, and each recording is unedited. Our members have prepared questions to assess candidates running for elected office, and I'd like to introduce Michael Connelly, who is running for governor for the state of Nebraska. Welcome, Michael.
Nice to see you.
So our first question is, why did you agree to participate in our online town hall?
It would be kind of interesting for me not to participate in this one, since I am by far the strongest candidate on gun rights in any of the races across the board.
Well, having worked with you on several of these initiatives, I can understand why you would say that. So our next question is pretty simple. What is your favorite firearm and how often do you shoot it?
Okay, this might sound odd. I've got a few. As far as a handgun, I like a K38, a 38 special for a handgun. I do have a very nice 300 Savage for deer hunting or other things. And I have a few other miscellaneous little guns. My two favorite ones, now my favorite one, because I'm just so used to it being an old Marine, is an M16. And I can hit 10 out of 10 shots on a dog target of 500 yards. And I was one shot away from being on the Marine Corps rifle team. I needed a 230 and I had a 229.
That's
But
awesome.
not my favorite. My favorite is an old 22 long rifle that my dad built. And the sights are made from a nail that was pounded into the barrel, drilled in, and filed off on the top to sight it in correctly. And I use that, it might sound odd, I use that to shoot grasshoppers.
Wow.
I shoot the grasshoppers and I feed them to the cats and the chickens.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And I like
next
using
question,
iron sights, not scopes. Anyway.
No, I'm an iron sight person too myself. Our next question, of course, now we're delving into the more serious stuff. What is the number one purpose of government?
The number one purpose of government is to protect the people. Mutual self-defense is the number one, to make sure that the citizens are not taken advantage of. That is my opinion. A lot of what the government does right now is excessive, and it is my intention to make dramatic cuts in most areas of the government in case I manage to make it in as governor. Wonderful.
So as you can imagine, our members have several issues of interest. We're going to dive into those. What are your thoughts on what you're going to do to protect Nebraskans from federal government attempts to restrict the Second Amendment?
We actually have one of our initiatives out in the field on that. It's called the Nebraska Unorganized Militia. Currently, Nebraska's law says that from 17 to 60 years old, you can be in the unorganized militia in case of invasion or some other thing. And then they also throw in a piece that says, and we will put federal control over that if the feds want it, which is like, why would you do that? Why would you put that in the laws? It's like, by the way, we're just going to let everybody be under federal control. So we have actually the individual that will be running as my lieutenant governor choice researched all the different laws across the United States, and he pieced together an unorganized militia law. It's a little bit similar to what we have now, but the feds lose their authority, and everyone, all the weapons that they have as an unorganized militia member are exempt from any type of federal overreach. The feds can't touch them. They're militia weapons. So basically it stops against federal gun grabs, and it also doesn't send all of our people up into a federal force out of Nebraska. So that's actually one of my favorite ones that we have, is that particular one.
Wonderful. We're going to go a bit further with some of the specific issues we've been addressing lately or forever in Nebraska. So I'm going to ask you about your position on a topic and what you're doing or have done to support that position. So let's talk about constitutional carry.
Constitutional carry. Now, they've been trying to push constitutional carry through, and I did speak to Colonel Brewer, Senator Brewer, whichever title you prefer.
He goes by both.
He goes by both. And he was telling me that basically they had to water it down, and one went through, but because it had some water down issues, they said that it wouldn't fly. Then they watered it down again. It's like, forget the watering down. It already got defeated twice. And I don't think there's any way it's going to make it through with all the liberals we have in our unicameral. So what we did is, this is another one that my lieutenant governor picked. His name is Robert Rhodes. He's the son of a former state patrol retiree in Nebraska from Kearney. He wrote a constitutional carry initiative. Now, when you make the initiatives, you have to turn them into the reviser of statutes. Those are the legal experts at the state, and they have their go at them and say, well, you need to change this or that. So we did have to pull a little bit of the teeth, but it's not watered down. It's pretty good. But basically, it makes it so you will have the right to carry a weapon around with you. It's a constitutional carry initiative, and it is one of the most popular ones we have out there in the field. In fact, recently I just called up and got permission to set up a tent and have initiative tables next to the Trump rally. And so we will have a constitutional carry initiative out there by the Trump rally, because if we get that on the ballot, it's going to pass in Nebraska. That'll be an easy pass.
Yeah. So talking about further, let's talk about red flag laws. So the opposite of freedom. What are your thoughts on that, and what would you do in support of that position?
You know what the red flag laws remind me of? They remind me of a movie with Tom Cruise where they have a Minority Report, the division of pre-crime. Hey, we think this person might do something wrong. Yeah, all they have to do is have someone call in and just report anyone that they don't like and have their guns taken. And we know that is a complete violation of all of every aspect of the Second Amendment rights that we have. And that is an absolute no-go. And it's against not only the US Constitution, but the Nebraska Constitution as well. So unless they want to completely change the Constitution, the red laws are immediately no-go. That will not fly in Nebraska.
So as one of the few states without it, let's talk about your thoughts on state preemption of firearm laws. What are your thoughts?
Well, the state preemption, basically the preemption meaning the higher level government controlling the lower level. If we look at the Nebraska Constitution, it already says that the political subdivisions cannot make any laws that restrict or impede your Second Amendment rights. Now, the only reason I'm running with all these initiatives is in case I don't make it in as governor. Because if I make it in as governor, all those BS little local laws are gone just like that, because they're unconstitutional. And everything that's unconstitutional, all these silly little regulations, they will be gone on day one. So the reason I'm running with all the initiatives is in case I don't make it in as governor, I still want to put some teeth into the fight.
Great. So talking about putting teeth or further protections for our rights, we had a bill, LB 300. It was from Senator Slama, and it was about castle doctrine and taking what we know as what we call castle doctrine light in our state, where we don't have a duty to retreat if you're within the confines of your own home, but if you're on your front porch, you do. It would extend it to your car, and it would extend it to your place of work, so that if it was, a stranger, that's one thing, you don't have a duty to retreat. But if it's your coworker, you have a duty to retreat. So we have this castle doctrine issue where we don't have preemption of innocence as well of the homeowner. So what are your thoughts on our issues that we have with regards to being able to protect yourself in your home, your car, or place of work?
Well, if you take the castle doctrine, give it a few more teeth, toss in some fangs and a few claws, that's kind of what our Stand Your Ground initiative is like. I want it so it doesn't matter where you are. You do not have to have a duty to retreat. You can protect yourself, your property, your home, your family, the innocent people around you. As an example, the guy who wrote this up, my lieutenant governor choice, Robert, he was told by the Omaha police, even if someone breaks into your house, He said, you have a duty to retreat. You can't shoot them. They said, what if they have a knife? They said, the blade must have touched your skin first. It's like, sure hope they didn't touch your heart under the heart. And this is what the police actually told him in Omaha. This is their policy there. And he said, what if they got a gun? He said, well, they must have shot at you first and then you can shoot at them. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I know exactly. Wow. Well, the stand your ground that we're pushing is kind of like the castle doctrine on steroids. I have seen so many cases of individuals that have had someone die because they could not protect them. And then I've seen other cases. I'll give you one quick example. Over in Israel, I know someone, they were eating in a small cafe there. They were touring the country. And a couple of individuals rode up on motorcycles with Uzi machine guns, dropped the motorcycles, stepped in the doorway. They were about to pepper everybody, kill them all. And 7 people in the cafe stood up and dropped them both in the doorway. Israeli army came up, they saw the bodies, the Uzis, the motorcycles, loaded everything up, thanked everybody in the crowd, and were on their merry way. But I was in Chula Vista, California, and there was a lady there in Chula Vista, California, that she was carrying her weapon with her. And there was this, now this was decades ago when California wasn't so blue.
Yeah.
But she was carrying a weapon with her, and she went up to a McDonald's, and they had a sign on the door. And it said, no weapons allowed. So she was compliant. She put it in the trunk of her car. She and her mother and father went into the McDonald's. He stood up in the line to order. She and her mother sat down. Almost immediately, a gunman stepped in the door, started shooting people in the lineup, shot her father in the chest. The mother ran over to try to grab him, shot her in the head, killed her. And the daughter hid behind the table. Finally, law enforcement showed up, but there were many people who were killed. If she would have had her weapon with her to protect the people, that would not have happened. All these mass shootings that happen, imagine if you have 1 out of 5 people, 1 out of 10 people out there who is armed, ready to be the first responder to protect all of the innocents, those mass shootings wouldn't happen. It's because they try to control guns. It's not like they go up to the criminals and the criminals say, excuse me, may I have the latest legal guidebooks so I can see what, can I carry the guns with me?
So this is a perfect segue then. What specific gun laws do you think should get repealed?
Almost everything. Almost every. In fact, if I can't think of any specific one that I would want to keep. In fact, if we come up with some sort of laser ray gun, we're perfectly justified in keeping that as well. And when they made the Second Amendment rules, it was to protect us. It was to protect our society, to protect our country. And when you look at the places that make the gun restrictions and they make the gun laws, they're the ones that want to be a totalitarian society. Look at the Nazis. When they take away all the guns, what happens then? Look what happened to Australia. No, it is absolutely essential. And I consider everyone who carries the first responders. The police show up later to put the chalk marks on the ground. Everyone else is a first responder. And we need to be responsible to protect the people around us. Let me throw in one of the others. Now, this is actually a Second Amendment one that I wrote that didn't come from my lieutenant governor pick, and that's the full access one. This allows you to carry your weapon wherever you go, whether picking up your kid at school, you don't have to put it in the trunk. I've run into state patrolmen, police that say, when I'm off duty, I have to take off my weapon, put it in my trunk before I pick up my kid at school. That is insane. You can carry it when you go to school. You can carry it when you go to church, some of the place where the most vulnerable people are. And unless they've hired security, they're not protected. And I have seen in the past multiple cases of gunmen walking into churches and killing people. And if some of the people there had their weapons with them, that would not have happened. It is very essential that we can protect all the citizens around us.
Well, thank you for that. Segue to that. So NFOA believes in education. So we talk about community, keeping the community safe. What's your thoughts on firearm safety classes for programs in like K through 12 schools?
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to education, I should mention I was the educational director of #1 ranked academic school for children in Japan for about 16 years. I came back here. I went from around the year 2000 to 2016 in Asia. I came back to run for governor in 2022 because right now China is preparing for war at a breakneck speed. 2 years ago, they surpassed our naval strength. Soon they will surpass our air strength, and who knows how much longer before nuclear strength. I want Nebraska to be the type of place that nobody wants to come and invade. In World War II, all the Swiss children from the age of 7 and on up were armed with rifles and they knew how to use them. Nobody was going to go into Switzerland. They would have been pincushioned by the elementary school students. And with my background in education, one of the things that I like to teach is apprenticeship programs, training programs, and gun and weapons training is essential. It teaches gun safety, gun use from children on up. They need to have this. This will lower the incidence of stupid gun accidents and kids playing around. They need to know what a gun can be used for. They need to know how to safely use it. They need to put that in there, dump all this other bizarre stuff that they're trying to teach, the critical race theory, the comprehensive sexual education, and everything like that. Incidentally, as far as education, that is one of the most popular initiatives I have, is to wipe out the state board of education, the commissioner, have the governor appoint a director, and whittle down the State Department of Education to about a dozen people, make it a small office. But one of the programs, actually two big programs we're going to put in: Christian heritage constitutional history in every class from kindergarten up, plus gun safety and gun and weapons training from kindergarten up. Absolutely, that is so essential.
So obviously being a 2A supporter, briefly describe to me the intent and purpose of the Second Amendment.
The intent and purpose of the Second Amendment. We were pushed around by England, years ago. They controlled everything, even the slavery issue. We had some people on the left who will look at some of our former presidents and say they were slave owners. It was terrible. It's like, what they didn't mention is that they inherited these slaves from their parents, and when they tried to free them, they were not allowed under English law to free these slaves unless they had a tremendous amount of money to support them their entire lives. They had to pay the money upfront before they could even free them. And we had all kinds of repressive laws like that from England. We broke away from England, but the Second Amendment was made so that we will not be overwhelmed by some bizarre authoritarian government. I remember watching some interview. It was in Congress, and one of the congressmen, one of the liberal type of congressmen, told this lady, you don't need to have these kind of weapons for going out and hunting deer or to protect you from whatever. And she said, the Second Amendment was not to protect us from wildlife. It was to protect us from you.
So lastly, moving on from that, let's just talk about the Nebraska Constitution and Article 1, Section 1, the Statement of Rights, which you referred to in the beginning. How would that impact your decision-making in the role you're pursuing?
How would it impact my decision-making? Well, I have no problem having a little bit of teeth when I do things. Now, I do not like to have people say, well, we've made up this little individual or this little separate law or this regulation, so we're going to follow it. And if you think it's unconstitutional, you can take it to court.
Right.
Well, I have a different approach to that. Let me give you a quick example. In our unicameral, our Constitution states that all of the elections, all of the votes are supposed to be open and transparent. Mm-hmm. But in the very beginning, they have a secret vote. When they make the committee leaders and such, they have a secret vote in the very beginning. On day one, if I am in office, I will go there with a handful of state patrolmen, and I'll smile real sweet like, and I will tell them, if any of you cast a secret vote in violation of our Constitution, because you keep saying it should go to court,
Mhm.
You will go to court because I'm going to have you arrested right here. You'll go to jail
Now
and
I
you will
understand what
go
you
to
mean by
court.
teeth. Yes.
And you will go to court. Yes, I will have teeth. In fact, I've been mentioned. One of the nicknames that I've recently picked up. You have seen the Clint Eastwood movie Heartbreak Ridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I picked up a nickname recently called Gunny Highway 2.0.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, but I don't have a bit of problem arresting politicians, and if I have a politician that makes some unconstitutional rule or regulation in any city, and if they arrest somebody, I want to have an immediate hotline that anyone in the state, if they think that their rights have been trampled on, that they can contact me immediately, so that way I can solve that problem. And if I have a politician who gets someone arrested, that politician will be charged with false imprisonment, perhaps kidnapping charges. I don't want anyone to break any small section of our Constitution. If they want to make a rule change, they can try to change the Constitution, but they
Right.
better not make any punk little laws to try to bypass what we already have built in to protect us.
Wonderful. So on that, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know you've been very busy. How do people find out more about you, your campaign, your initiatives? Where should we send them?
Well, probably the best place to go. I have my own personal site, michaelconnelly.org, but it's hard to get there because I've got a third cousin who has so many detective books that whenever you type in Michael Connelly, everything goes to his site. So probably the best way to find out about me and the initiatives is to go to voicesofnebraska.com. Now, on this site, Voices of Nebraska, we have also a list of all the candidates that are pushing these initiatives across the state. If you've been to any of the gun shows across the state, you have probably seen some of those people.
Yeah, we've been standing next to them at our own booth. Yes.
Yes, I've run into you guys at the gun show as well, or some of your people there. But yes, so these individuals there, they pretty much all back each other up. But these are the people who are showing up at the state capitol building. They're testifying for good laws, against bad laws. In fact, when they had the constitutional carry, I believe I saw you up there at the state capitol
Yep,
building, didn't I?
we
Yes,
sure
I
did.
thought so.
Yeah.
But so
All right.
the
So it's
Voices of
Citizens for Nebraska.
Nebraska.com,
Awesome. Voices of
voicesofnebraska.com.
Nebraska.
And there is a place there that you can contact us there, or you can send an email to voicesofnebraska@gmail.com. Now, this is something that I tell people: do a test with all the different candidates that are running for office. Try to contact them and see how long it takes before they get back. This is a time period when they're trying their hardest to impress you. Imagine if you cannot contact them now, how easy will it be to get a hold of them when you've got a problem in the future? Then do that, and then send us a mail and see how long it takes us to get back to you.
Got it. Well,
Hence,
wonderful.
Voices of Nebraska.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we'll go ahead and conclude.